Well, you were here at the National Press Club. The audience loved your talk. What do you think were some of the points that resonated the most with the audience tonight?
What was really important for me to do was to place the situation that has arisen recently as far as the press coverage of Clarence Thomas's unethical and illegal activity in a context, in the context of the Supreme Court's history, and also in the context of his own life and his motivation, as I see it, from having known him for several years before he got on the court. And I felt like my analysis of his 20 years on the court resonated with the people who were there. They understood that the place where we are now is really a place of crisis as far as the influence that the Supreme Court has on matters that are important to all of us, but more importantly, the way that Clarence Thomas perceives his own role on the court. And by that I mean, it's obvious to me, and I think that the audience today also realized that what Clarence is doing is really conducting himself in his opinions and his decisions and in his speeches for the last 20 years or so that his friends were rewarded and his enemies are punished.
Well, you really brought it together with, I could see the law professor background, bringing in the history of the Supreme Court, your own powerful personal memoir, and then how it applies to him and the public. Just last night, I was talking about your upcoming talk here at the Press Club, and someone said, well, you know, I don't like him, but gee, it's impossible for anyone to have to leave the court. Why would it be possible that he might?
First, we have had a justice to resign from the court as a result of matters coming to the attention of the public that embarrassed him, and that was, of course, Fortis. And secondly, it has to be made clear, I think, not just to Clarence Thomas and not just to the Supreme Court, but to anyone in this country who is in a position of power, that the laws apply to them, just as they apply to every other citizen in this country. You are not immune from prosecution, you're not immune from investigation, you're not immune from questions. And when Clarence stopped telling us through his forms that he was required to fill out pursuant to an act of Congress, when he stopped telling us the amount of money that his wife was making, and he stopped telling us the source of her income, what that meant was he deliberately determined that he was above the law and that he could make decisions on the Supreme Court, he could make speeches, he could influence what happened in this country, in spite of the fact that his wife was being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by the entity who was benefiting from the decisions that he was making.
And bottom line is that is what should drive him off the court.
That is it, as far as I'm concerned. That is a very simple manifestation of what has occurred with this man's deterioration since he's been on the bench. He has gotten to the point where he complained about being the victim of a high-tech lynching when he was involved in his confirmation hearings. He complained about what happened to him in his memoir, which was published in 2007. He's still an angry person, and he's gotten to the point where his anger, his resentment, his greed, his ambition have propelled him, just like it does with somebody like Madoff, to break the law. And just like Bernie Madoff and anybody else who has violated the public trust and who has broken the law, he needs to be punished.
Well, thank you for your very courageous and effective way of stepping forward. And I'm Andrew Kreig, and I'm with the Justice Integrity Project. I'm here at the National Press Club after retired Judge Lillian McEwen has just delivered a very powerful lecture with an extensive question and answer on why she believes Justice Clarence Thomas should leave the Supreme Court through prosecution or resignation. And let me ask you to hold up your book, which I read, a very powerful and compelling memoir, DC Unmasked Undressed, a separate story in many ways of growing up in Washington, D.C., and finding happiness and success in the law despite great adversity. And I recommend the book.